On this episode of Game Shack, I'm going to give you my top 10 things I would like to see from Arcade1up in the upcoming year, and I'm going to tell you which one of those things I think will actually happen. All that and more coming up next. Hey everybody, welcome on back into the Game Shack. I am your host, JDV. Thanks for stopping by. As a reminder, you guys are the sponsors of this channel, so if you like the content, please give us a thumbs up when you leave and subscribe if you haven't already. 2022 was a kind of up and down year for Arcade1up. They came out with a lot of cabs that people wanted to see, like T2 and NFL Blitz, but there were a multitude of problems with almost every kind of cab that they came out that was a new design, everything from the faded marquee and exposed cords to T2, to the inability to play head-to-head in games like NFL Blitz and Marvel vs. Capcom 2. They took kind of a beating in that regard. There were quality controls kind of everywhere. You had speaker gate. Then when they gave us the 19-inch monitor in the XL series, that monitor wasn't great. So you had some really nice ideas and then some not maybe really well thought out executions of those cabs. So all that said, here are, not in any particular order, the things that I would like to see Arcade1up do for 2023. Well, the first thing, and I kind of already referenced it, is clean up the unforced errors. Don't put out games that have tinny sound. Don't put out bad marquees. There's just no reason for it. Don't do dumb things like have exposed cords in a game, in a shooter game like T2, when all you had to do is drill a hole in the control panel and sink the cord in through there. Don't promise people online play if you don't have it ready. I understand there's pressure to get these things out at Christmas time so that they will sell, and to their credit, at least there was something there for us on Thanksgiving if you did buy an NFL Blitz. But just clean it up. Just tighten up the QC a little bit. More importantly, I think, let some of the people in the community play test more. Be more active in letting people who actually love this stuff play test, and so you can eliminate a lot of these maybe even minor things right off the bat just by maybe 2-3 weeks of play testing. Second thing I'd like to see is sort of related, and it's this. Right now, almost all of the new Arcade1up machines have Wi-Fi. Almost all of them now have some ability to, through micro USB or whatever, increase the firmware. Give us some of those firmware upgrades for games that need them. And the reality is that's going to be a lot of them. Everything from not being able to turn off the pixel smoothing in a game like T2 to in the first legacy game, Mortal Kombat, when you're playing Joust, if you hit one of the buttons, it'll give you turbo power flying. It's a little thing, but it's also something that they ought to be able to fix relatively easy. In other words, pay some more attention to giving us some firmware upgrades. I mean, it's there for a reason, right? I mean, right now it is a very underutilized aspect of all of these cabinets that have come out in the last few years. And not to put too fine a point on it, it is something that their main competitor at Games does a very good job of doing, which is giving us firmware upgrades. And what better firmware upgrade can you get than an additional game? I think that would be a way to reward people who have bought into these games from 2-3 years ago, particularly if it's a premium style cab like Tron or T2. Give us an extra game. Throw on another game onto Tron and you'll see that game just fly off the shelves. Give us one more shooter in T2, Ghost Recon or something. It doesn't matter, a chicken hunt. It doesn't matter how bad it is. Give us something new on these games. I don't think that's going to happen. I'll just spoil that for you, but it would be really nice if we can not only have some of these glitches like the inability to turn off pixel smoothing. It'd be real nice if we could get a new game or two from Arcade1up, and it's not unprecedented. They did add Rad Rally to the Outrun cab for free and just kind of out of nowhere, which was a very nice thing. So you added almost a quarter more games just by having that on there. Went from 4 to 5, and Rad Rally is a pretty sweet game, and that works really good on that cab. So give us a little bit of sugar in terms of firmware upgrades and a couple of new games. Change subject a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about PartyCades. Right now, it's very hard to find PartyCades, and when you can find them, they're going for $219.99 and up. So right now, you used to be able to find them for $120 all the time at QVC or HSN, and that's not the case anymore. I have a feeling they're letting that stock kind of go out, because I think they're going to be coming out with essentially the third generation of these PartyCades. And what I would like to see on them is more games, so give us 14 games on those PartyCades, and give us Wi-Fi. Give us the ability to put our scores up. I don't know if head-to-head play, if you should expect that, but heck, if it's a game that allows head-to-head play, do that as well. So I don't mind if you're going to be charging $200 for a PartyCade or $225, but if you are going to be charging that kind of money, give us the 14 games and give us Wi-Fi. Speaking a little bit about pricing, it would be nice if they kind of normalized pricing. Right now they're kind of doing the way that new cars or new cameras or other high-end electronics do, which is charge a premium for the early adopters of the product, and then start slashing the price as months go by. This is a kind of a dubious business plan, I think, because you tend to alienate the people who did spend more money, and you'll keep people like me from jumping into a product, because I know if I wait long enough that eventually you'll blow out those games at more than half off. Some of the design changes I would like to see, of course, are the bigger cabinets. I don't really care so much if you give us the risers or not. I don't mind the risers. It does make the game more easy to move if you're weak or sick or something like that. Some people do like just to sit in a normal chair and play the 4-foot variety of Arcade1up games. So I can see that. It does make it easier to transport if you want to, say, take it over to a buddy's house or something like that. So there is something to be said for the riser approach. That said, I know a lot of people do not like them, and they do want to see a riserless form factor. Either way, I would like to see a taller cab. Right along with that is give us 19-inch screens. Now, 19-inch screens maybe isn't applicable for games like Pac-Man, where it is a vertically oriented screen. I actually think 17 inches is the sweet spot for games like Galaga, Pac-Man, Dig Dug, stuff like that. But for 2-player fighting games or 2 to 4 player scrolling games, the 19-inch screen is way, way too small, particularly in the form factor of an Arcade1up cabinet. There's simply put no way 4 grown adult men can stand around a 4-player cabinet and play it. Realistically, it's pretty tough for 4 grown men to stand around a 2-person cabinet with a 17-inch screen. You can do it in T2 because the cords kind of allow you to be outside of the cab, but it's really tough. I mean, you can do it in games like Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter, but it is not optimal. It is a way that AtGames does stomp them right now, is in having that larger control deck and larger screen. So give us that 19 or 20-inch screen at least. And of course, if you do give us that bigger screen, make it a really good screen. Give us a BOE that is a 19 or 20-inch. Heck, give us a 24-inch screen. Give us a nice big fat screen for the 2-player and 2 to 4-player scrolling beat 'em ups, and for the fighting games, fingers crossed we do see that coming down the line, but I don't really expect it. Well, speaking of that, I hope that we can see some reissues of older games in larger form factors. For instance, like something like Frogger or Burger Time, which has a really sweet cab, by the way. It's been a while since we saw games like that. Let's see those in bigger, newer form factors. And of course, the granddaddy of them all, the one that everybody wants to see reissued, Star Wars. Give us a nice, big, fat reissue of Star Wars, hopefully in a bigger form factor. At the very least, I do hope that they do reissue some of those older games that have been out of print for a while, so to speak, because some of those games have really skyrocketed in value. It's very hard right now to get a Star Wars cab used for less than $500. I've seen them going for $1,000 on Facebook, which is, no. Well, if they're going to give us some old games, why not ask for some new games? And I do hope that we do see some really nicer kind of 90s era going into 2000 era type cabs that require more CPU firepower, games like House of the Dead, Area 51, shooters that kind of have that 3D, more of the 3D type effect, maybe racing games, some of the more higher end racing games, it would be nice to see that. But give us fewer cabs if they have to, but make sure that those cabs have no unforced errors. So go ahead and give us House of the Dead, but make sure that you don't have those cords flip-flopping everywhere and a crappy marquee. If you are going to give out a whole lot of new shooting games, you got to put it in a bigger screen. You just have to. You can get away with it in T2 because it's a spray and pray game. It really doesn't work at all for Big Buck Hunter and would not work for a game like House of the Dead, where no, on some of those boss monsters, you have to be very spot on with your aiming. So give us a bigger screen and really make that quality control / design really good. And I think people would be very happy with that. Do I think they will come out with new shooters? Yeah, I think that 2023 is going to be the year of the shooter, in part because the competition, like at Egg Games, dropped their light gun build. I don't think it's going to come out at all in 2023, if ever. So that gives them an opportunity to get a real leg up in this particular niche of the market. One thing I for sure want to see, I do want to see those casino arcades. I know we've all seen those pictures of, of the possibilities of what those would look like. I love the idea of having a slot machine in my little home arcade. My wife definitely loves the idea of it. She has been pestering me to get something like that. The only way that I would do it though is if it was cheap, like $200, but you're getting a pretty decent sized machine. Alternatively, you can charge some more for it, but give us real payouts. So make them actual legitimate slot machines. So if you hit, you get quarters. Let us be able to put quarters or tokens. Lastly, what I would really hope is announced from Arcade1up, and the thing I actually think has the least amount of chance of actually happening, is them announcing a 4K pinball cab. Since they released those 3 V-Pins about 2 years ago now, they've seemingly lost interest in V-Pin. They really have only done one thing, and that's fix some of the bugs that we had on the Williams table. I'm speaking specifically about Whitewater, where it just wasn't playing right at all. But since that happened, we haven't heard a thing from Arcade1up, and we have seen those prices. Well, initially they went up from the $500, $550 price tag all the way up to I think $700 for a good long time. Now they're coming back down to $550, $500. So I really hope that Arcade1up does not forget about us pinball lovers out there and gives us a nice 4K 43-inch, at least 32-inch, but this is my wish list, so give us a 41, 43-inch monitor in that thing, dial it up, and heck, if you got to charge $2,000, $2,500, I still think people would buy it. I would buy it, as long as it had the ability to add games and things like that. It is a section of the market that they once had so much promise in, and now seemingly have given up. I hope they haven't given it up. My real wish would be that they would actually put out a real pinball game and do something to challenge Stern. Again, something around the $2,000 to $3,000 price mark. I know they're not going to do that, but it would be so nice if they could put out a real pinball game. All right, so that's it. That's my top 10 list. What do you guys think? Do you agree, disagree? What is it that you want to see? If it's a specific title or build shape or something like that, let me know down below. I really am curious. What do you think they are going to do? Think they are going to come out with House of the Dead or Star Wars? I hope they do. All right, love each other. Merry almost Christmas, and I'll see you guys next time in the Game Shack. Mwah!
Be sure to visit evilgeniusentertainment.com for exclusive content, swag, casting call news, and much, much more.